right, welcome everybody to episode 9 of the Comic Cinematic Universe. I'm here with my partner in crime here, Grace. Say what's up.
Hello, everybody. Good to be back. Hope everyone's doing well.
Yeah,
Excited.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. I'm doing well, and if you can see right here, I'm kind of going in right now, just because today is actually the last day of shooting here at this location. I don't know if you can see it. I don't have anything up on my walls anymore. Like the Thanos gauntlet is gone. The Iron Man heart is gone. All of that. I'm moving. I should be done moving on Sunday. So yeah. Today is a celebration. It is the last CCU podcast here in North Hollywood. And luckily for me, like I thought I was going to be recording in a button up because all of my clothes are in Tarzana. But luckily I found my t-shirt, another t-shirt in my closet. So I'm happy I found my tee. I could be comfortable on this last pod here at this location. So
Yeah.
today we are going to be discussing the DC fandom. It happened last weekend, and I was curious to check it out. I watched pretty much the whole thing on Wednesday, I believe, and I took some notes. And I want to dive right into the start, if you don't mind.
Let's do it. Let's get into it.
Okay, because it opens up with The Rock going into a monologue talking about Black Adam. Now, actually, before we even get to Black Adam, I want to briefly discuss why this DC fandom in particular is important. And I feel like it's not only important to me, but it should be important to just the DC universe in general. Okay. Reason being is because as far as movies go, you and I, Grace, we go back and forth with DC and me being the bad guy, wanting continuity, and
Thank you for acknowledging that you are the
I'm
bad
fine.
guy.
I'm fine at playing the bad guy, but when it comes down to just the DC universe, for me, it's a little bit it's a little everywhere, and there's a few connections here or there, but it's not really connected as well or as what I would like as the Marvel
As
universe.
Marvel.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
so
100%.
like you've talked about in the past that you've liked how it's different in that way, like it's all different stories and everything like that. But the reason why I feel like this is important is because, or this is important in particular, is because we're starting to get movies that are now somewhat connected to the other movies that have come out. Okay,
Yes. Hmm.
we have Black Adam, we have Shazam 2, Aquaman 2,
Flash.
Flash, and we also have the Peacemaker show, and that was connected to the Suicide Squad. So we have plenty of things that are showing some type of connection, but I don't know if DC is going to fulfill that part in connecting it like not only me, but other fans want. Okay? So now I would like to start with Black Adam, okay? Because
Hmm.
as far as the notes I actually took it as I was watching, and from jump, I'm gonna start with some events. It opens with, I guess, some archaeologists. They're walking in a cave. They found something. They see a floating crown, and one of them they read an ancient language. And out of nowhere, Black Adam is freed. So, off jump, we're assuming that that's some type of mystical prison that he's been there for how many? We don't know how many years.
Oh, I would like to interject.
Interject. Do your thing.
Okay, because we know how many years.
Oh, do it.
So so I am assuming that this is the tomb that the wizard has imprisoned Black Adam into, and I'm assuming it's the same wizard we see in the 2019 Shazam.
Mm-hmm.
And he was entombed in the comics for about 3,600 years, and the
Okay.
reason he was entombed was because back in his homeland, I have the name. I will pronounce it wrong, so I'm warning all of
Oh,
you.
it's not me today. It's not
It's
me
not you
butchering
today.
names.
You know something? Okay, hold on. I got somewhere. Hold on. Okay, so his native land is called Kandak. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it's spelled Kahnndaq.
Hmm.
But essentially his land was torched and burned down by this one villain who also ended up killing, Black Adam's wife or first wife and children, causing him to basically go berserk
Okay.
and take such extremes to try to protect that area that he had to be basically locked down
Hmm.
by the wizard. Like his powers were taken away and he was entombed. And I think that's what this sneak peek is showing
Yeah.
is him getting, I'm assuming escaping or like being brought out of his and like where he was being entombed. We hear that one archaeologist say something in a different language and then ends with Shazam. And then that's when he comes out and then all the stuff happens.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
let's say from that, right? In this scene we see him being surrounded by soldiers and him just being I'm just gonna say being badass. Now it's like I don't know what the rest of this movie is gonna be, but I'm sold. Okay, I know I opened this saying that I may be opposed or whatnot, but as far as this sneak peek, I'm already sold on watching this. Okay, now when watching this trailer and seeing Black Adam do his thing against these soldiers, catching bullets, electrifying them, and all that. Uh, that leads me to question what an adolescent teen like Shazam is going to be able to do against Black Adam, because this, from what it looks
Yeah.
like, is a soldier. This is somebody who has skills in some type of fighting, and all in all, he has control over his powers, and he's had control over these powers for thousands of years, right? So,
Yep.
with that being said, I think the quote unquote villain or hero in this movie, it's not Shazam. It's gonna be Dr. Fate, and I don't really know too much of Dr. Fate outside of like I've played with him in the Injustice game, and he's some type of I would say DC version of like Doctor Strange, But all in
Okay.
all, when
Yeah.
it comes down to what I was expecting with Black Adam, I thought Shazam and his team were going to be somehow connected to take him down, and in actuality, they're going to get a whole different movie with a whole other villains. We'll get to that later, but I have no idea what to expect, if anything, when it comes down to Black Adam versus any of the characters that we know already.
Yeah, and really quickly, kind of going back to how is a teenage boy going to duke it out with this like very powerful being?
Right.
Let's not even get into Black Adam. Like the Rock alone,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like is like enough. But when you compare their powers, like their powers come from the wizard, like the
Right.
same wizard that we
Mm-hmm.
see pop up in the 2019 Shazam. I'm assuming they get their powers from the same Greek gods as well, and that's kind of what we saw in this little snippet, right? We saw a little bit of like the electricity, we saw some of the
Mm-hmm.
like quickness, the strength. We were able to see kind of a lot of those powers displayed, so we
Yeah.
can assume they're kind of matched up in the way that they are in the comics. But I mean, he has a team now, right? So at least it's not just Shazam. Like he has like the whole like Marvel family.
Right.
So I feel like they could hang in. But I mean, I don't know how this film is gonna like pan out because in the comics he's obviously like kind of set up to be a villain
Correct.
against Shazam, but he's also somewhat of an anti-hero. So
Mm-hmm.
he goes back and forth a little bit. He was at one point a member of the I think it's the Justice Society of America. So I'm not sure, and that's kind of cool. I like this. I like not knowing. Like I like
Yeah.
being introduced to these new characters. I think it's fun. I go in with a very open mind and hoping to really fall in love with them. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see what's going to happen with these guys.
Say with what we've seen so far in this sneak peek, because I'm going to compare it to Batman versus Superman, just for a second. The reason why I'm comparing the two is because Warner Brothers, they released a trailer, and in that trailer they put Doomsday in it, and they kind of ruined it for me as far as, oh, the villain is Doomsday, and that's who Superman is going to ultimately have to fight and beat, you know, to where
Right.
here we already know Black Adam is the main character. We know Pierce Brosnan is playing Dr. Fate, which I'm curious because I like James Bond, and then he may not be the best James Bond, but all in all, I liked him as James Bond. He was cool. Yeah,
Right.
he's had other cool roles, but all in all, he's kind of been typecasted as like a secret spy in every movie. So this is going to be a little different out of his lane to be Dr. Fate, to be mystical. But I'm curious just to see what it's going to be. But if there's anything else to address in this movie, if there is a Shazam cameo or anybody else of a big character, I feel like that's something that should be left in the movie and not put in a trailer. Because
Yeah.
let's rewind. Let's talk about. Sorry to bring it to Marvel real quick, but I was not expecting Venom to show Spider-Man in that shit. That was a
No,
random
that was out
reveal
of
that
yes.
that came out of the blue that everybody loved the movie 10 times more, being that they put that little segment at the very end, you know? So if there's something like that in this movie, I don't want to see it until the movie comes out.
So although this is not in the trailer, you can find it on the IMDb for this movie. These are a couple of the characters that we are going to see, and we did see a couple of them appear in the, not the trailer specifically, but in like the intro leading to the trailer, right, where we
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of the actors kind of talking. So obviously Black Adam, we have Hawkman,
Yeah.
Cyclone, Atom Smasher, and obviously Dr. Fate. We were also supposed to get Hawkwoman in this movie, but she was in the end kind of scrapped. They even had an actress I actually really like. I'm gonna pronounce it wrong. I think it's Aiza Gonzalez, but she's a Mexican actress that we've seen appear in the Hobbs and Shaw movie, and she also
She
appeared
was
in I think Godzilla
The
versus
Shaw
Kong.
sister. Was that her?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no. She had like a very, very small role. I wish like I
okay.
pulled up a picture,
Okay.
but if
Gotcha.
you guys looked her up, you'll know exactly who we're talking about. I would
Okay.
have loved to see that, but it seems like we already have like a very heavy cast.
Yeah.
And that's just what's being revealed right now.
Right.
So hopefully they do hold on to some of those like, juicy little like plot lines so that we have something similar to Venom where, we already liked Venom as it was, and then this
Right.
little thing that we did not expect just blew it over the roof for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. And so far, because this is the start of DC Fandome, and I'm already sold. Okay. I'm sold on this movie. Now, did you have anything else you wanted to add to Black Adam?
Um, for Black Adam, I mean, I took a couple of notes. There's actually a lot that I found about him. I'm really excited to see his character. I mean, The Rock, I don't know if you guys know, but well, not you guys, I don't know if you know. My daughter's like a big Rock fan. I
Okay.
think it's really funny. Anytime she sees him on the screen, she's like, I'm gonna sit down and watch this movie. So this movie is supposed to come out July 29th, 2022. And I don't have any more notes from there.
Okay. I think the last little tidbit, and honestly, from what I've seen in, there was an animated movie with Shazam and Superman fighting against Black Adam. So far, I feel like right now, as far as what they put it as, they're the only ones that maybe match up to his powers. But I'm curious just to see where this goes. Now, moving forward, I'm ready to talk about The Flash. Okay? Now, before we get into Flash the movie, I want to talk about Flash TV show. Okay? And
Okay.
this is where bad guy Derek or Chill comes into play. Why? Because I know there are thousands or millions of fans of this show. They've had seasons upon seasons, and they just released something as far as what's up and coming with this new show. Now, I mean not the new show, but with the show in general. Now, this show that Grace and I host, it's called the Comic Cinematic Universe. Now, I know I say now a lot, I'm sorry. But when it comes down to cinematic, to me that word, it means a lot in terms of the cinematography as far as how it looks, whether it be a show or a movie. Now, when it comes down to The Flash, the TV show, to me, there's nothing cinematic about it. It may have good storylines. It must have a good storyline, being that it has so many seasons and it's connected. As far as continuity goes, I will say the TV shows are connected pretty well, because I know that The Flash is connected to Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, Green Arrow, and all that, which I like. I like the fact that they connect it in the TV shows, but I never wonder. Well, it's like I've never understood why they don't do that with the movies. Now, as far as The Flash goes, it looks like a TV show. You know, it doesn't really look like pieces of a movie kind of chopped and then made into a series, because that's what Falcon and the Winter Soldier look like. That's what Loki looked like.
WandaVision,
All of these shows that Disney is putting out. I'm not even just talking Marvel. I'm gonna talk the Star Wars shows that they're putting out. All of these look like, let's say, a giant movie, but they just chopped them up into different chapters. Now, as far as The Flash, I don't get that. And The Flash, it reminds me of what was it? I'm gonna sound real old here, okay? But it reminds me of the show Buffy. Now, when it comes down to Buffy the show versus Buffy the movie, it looked like a movie, but it was a different feel when it came down to the show. Now, fast forward to today, we see a new Flash in this cinematic universe, and that Flash versus TV show Flash, we're gonna get to it in a second, but just the way that we're introduced, whether if it's introduced badly in the first Justice League and he makes it up in the Snyder Cut, I'm already sold on. Say if I've never seen a trailer of this new Flash movie that's coming out, I already know that it's going to be better than what we've seen or what I've seen on the TV show. So I don't know if you have. I know that was kind of like a long thing for me.
No, I definitely have comments on that, and I would say I agree. I've watched like a good chunk of like the Flash show, but something that always kind of made it difficult for me to hop into it initially, because I kind of started watching much later, is the cinematography, and it looks, I don't want to say badly done. It just doesn't look like a movie, which is, I mean, it's a show, right? So I think we kind of have to, adjust our expectations a little bit. The storylines are good, and I think that the continuity between the Flash and all the other shows that kind of relate to it is done really well, and truthfully I think it's that same reason, like the cinematography, the lighting, the saturation, it's very hard for me to stick with it, which is why I haven't really seen the last few seasons, but the storylines have been great, and I think if they had similar, even just in the color palette, a little closer to what we see with Marvel, and it just being done so well, like as if it was a movie, that same quality, I think I would probably be drawn into it much deeper than what I am right now.
I agree. It makes me wonder, like, are they using different cameras? Like, because if anything, can they just rent like the cameras from like Disney Studios, just find out what model it is and then just shoot the whatever going forward, but
I will say that that I think the shows give the DC fans what you don't receive from the movies in that connectiveness, that thing that makes us so excited about Marvel and how well everything is woven together. I think the shows at least serve that for like the big DC fans.
Totally
and I'm not as bothered by, and I'm not as bothered at the lack of continuity when it comes to the DC movies, because I don't really think that was their goal initially, and it wasn't really until Marvel was creating or weaving together what it's done in the past 10 plus years that I think they were starting to attempt to make something happen, but with directors, and then issues with like the studio directors, and like just ideas and all that kind of coming together, I feel like it's made it very hard for them to work as well as the Marvel crew to
Yeah.
create that. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of okay with it. Just tell me what connects, tell me what doesn't, and I will roll with it.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like what I want to know. So we can tell, and I agree with what you were saying. A lot of the things that we saw in Fandome are connected, right? Aquaman,
Right.
Shazam, Black
Mm-hmm.
Adam, they
Mm-hmm.
all seem to be connected. And then the outlier, right, I think right now would be, the Batman, because that's
Mm-hmm.
obviously not connected. So as long as I know what is and what isn't, I feel like I can roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just kind of my piece.
Okay. Well, I'm going to skip around a bit, like, because being that we're talking about the Flash show, I want to skip forward to, because they went into the Flash movie later on in the event, but I'd like to
Uh-huh.
talk about it right now. And right now, there's an image of him standing in a suit, right? And to me, it looks like he's standing in the Batcave. But all in all, Batcave aside, this suit is different from what we saw in Justice League, but
Hmm.
it looks badass. I like it. I like the look of it. It looks, I don't know, like maybe Bruce Wayne gave
Armory,
him
like, yeah, yeah.
he pulled a Tony Stark and gave him an upgrade, and gave him a brand new suit that could probably make him run faster, less wind resistant. I don't know, but all in all, I like the look of this suit. Now, as far as this movie, now the question that I have, maybe you can answer it, but initially last year, the year before, I was assuming that this movie is going to be based on the storyline of the Flashpoint paradox. Paradox,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
yeah.
So
And that
now,
still seems to be the case. Yeah.
okay. So now, with that being said, um, if those aren't familiar, it's basically the Flash doing, like, let's say, a butterfly effect. He going to the past changes something, and then it changes the rest of the time. So all in all, as far as what I am to understand, this is more so for him to see his mom, correct?
Yeah, so traditionally what we see is that in Flashpoint he goes back in time to save his mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that creates like a catalyst of events, negative events, and then
Right.
he has to. I think in the comics he teams up with the Justice League to try to mend what he broke, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's also a storyline that they did explore in the TV show. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, I have a couple more images here. The first image is uh, Batman's, I don't want to say helmet, but his little head
His
covered on the
cowl.
ground
Yeah.
with some blood in front of it. So with that, I'm to assume that something happened to the Ben Affleck version of Bruce Wayne that we know, and this could be either a result of the Flashpoint paradox, or it could be the reason why the Flash went back in time. So
Mhm.
we see this, and we already got news last year that Michael Keaton was signed to do this movie. Okay, now the second image that I'm going to pop up is an image of what we see as a silhouette of Batman standing in the Batcave. Now, people, they are so excited. They're just like, there he is. Michael Keaton Batman is back. Here this is like, it's the pointy ears. It's definitely him. Now, this is where I'm going to argue that point. Okay? Just because in the Flashpoint paradox, the Batman that we see, it's not Bruce Wayne. The Batman that we see is Thomas Wayne. And because of this, I'm expecting to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan in a bat suit. And for those who don't remember, Jeffrey Dean Morgan played Thomas Wayne at the very beginning of Batman vs Superman. Like, it was at the very intro. They were just doing the whole story again about how Bruce Wayne lost his parents, and coincidentally, it was Jeffrey Dean Morgan who plays Negan as the dad, and I forgot the other woman from Walking Dead plays the mom, but it's just a coincidence that they're both playing the Waynes. You know, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Right.
Negan versus, I wish I could remember her name, but she's salty because Negan killed Glenn. But anywho, all in all, in Flashpoint Paradox, yeah, Thomas Wayne is Batman, and his suit's a little different. It is more so a gray suit with, instead of like a yellow center, it's a black bat with a red center around it, and he has red eyes on his helmet. So I know a lot of people are expecting to see Michael Keaton, which we may very well get, you know, because the Flash is changing the universe, and we may get a glimpse of that. But I'm actually, I won't say expecting, but I am hoping to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan play Thomas Wayne again in the back suit.
So a couple things with that. This movie is essentially introducing the idea of like various timelines and almost like different multiverses and dimensions, very similar to how Marvel has been doing recently. And on that same note, very similar to how Marvel is trying to essentially adopt all the other, you know, related storylines to just say they exist in the same, you know, multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this is what the Flash movie is essentially serving, right? I don't know if you know, but in the Flash TV show, we saw I'm gonna forget this actor's name, Ezra Miller show up,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
in
I
the
saw that
TV
clip.
show. So that
Yeah.
already kind of merged together the idea of a multiverse and various timelines, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I think that your prediction could come. I mean, we have a couple of casting that has been confirmed. So Michael Keaton is going to be in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's been confirmed on on the IMDb for the movie. Let's see. We also are going to see Supergirl. So Sasha Kaye, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. She's also set to appear in the movie.
Wait,
There's some
do we
rumors.
know her from? Is that the Supergirl that's in the TV series, or is this a brand new
Not
actress?
relatively new. I'm not too sure if she's appeared in already some like TV shows or something, just because I don't keep up too much with the DC shows. But she is actually the first Latina to play Supergirl ever.
Oh
So it's not
snap!
the one, yeah. So it's not the one we see in like the Supergirl TV show that's been linked up with like the Flash and all of the other titles that we've seen. Another character that's rumored to appear is Green Lantern, but he has not been confirmed. And it's not on the IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
The way things have worked right with Marvel and DC, sometimes they're just not added until
Yeah.
a certain point,
Mm-hmm.
for that same real reason of just not revealing things too early on. So this, you know, although we don't see like Green Lantern listed on there or that version of Batman listed, it's not to say that they won't appear. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's possible that they could. Yeah.
We do see, like, I don't have an image, but we do see, I'm guessing, two different versions of the Flash along with the main one that we know of. Like, we see, say the Flash that we know, we see the same actor to his right with longer hair. So I'm assuming he's like a different version of that Flash. And then it looks like we have a woman Flash on the other side of
Supergirl.
him.
No, that's actually Supergirl. That's the
Supergirl.
actress. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's
I
her.
thought I saw
Yeah.
a lightning bolt in the center, so I thought that was just another Flash from another universe.
It's, unless I'm mistaken, it looks to be that same actress. And then when I saw her on the IMDb, it just confirmed that it was her.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that's like, you know, two timeline versions of Barry Allen, right? Like the two that we see with
Okay.
that Ezra Miller as
Yeah.
playing them, and then we see Supergirl next to
Yeah.
him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we already have a general idea that it's almost like a multiverse of just different Flashes.
It's a team up. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
team up film.
Yeah. So I'm curious just to see where it goes. Am I sold? I don't know. Because this versus, let's say, Black Adam, this one was a little vague just because of the points that I kind of pointed out earlier, you know. But all in all, I like the suit. We don't have an idea of who the villain is, because normally the villain is, I forgot the other type of Flash. I just know he has a yellow suit. Is that Reverse Flash? No.
Reverse Flash?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
Reverse
yeah.
Flash. Yeah.
And I don't know if he's going to be in it or not, but all in all, this leads me to more so be curious than excited.
Yeah, it does seem like the storyline is following very closely to Flashpoint. Barry Allen's mom is also listed on the IMDb, so I'm assuming he is going back to save his mom. That's what
Right.
my assumption is. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of like the Justice League helping him mend his mistakes, it's like
Mm-hmm.
this different, kind of like heroes, multiple versions of Batman, Supergirl, maybe different timeline versions of Barry Allen.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the foundation that we know so far. But I'm excited. Black Adam actually excited me much more than I thought it would. So I'm kind of like with you in that I think I'm a little more excited for that one.
Right.
But I'm pretty excited for this one as well.
Okay. So, say I have like a few things that I have on my docket, but where would you like to jump to next?
I'm pretty open. The next thing on just like my list right here is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Are you cool going there?
Yeah. Yeah. We're...
You seem so resistant. Why do you ask me if you're not okay?
Oh no, no, like because this is another one to where honestly when it started I I just skipped past it because where is it? Like I quoted him like say with the Aquaman sequel, first off, before we even get to this sequel, I liked certain aspects of the first Aquaman. Okay,
Hmm.
I really liked Manta or Black Manta. Is that what he's called?
Yeah, Black Manta.
I really liked that story of him getting his technology from the Atlanteans and making him the villain, and he is to reprise his role again in here, and he looks pretty dope in this sequel. Now, as far as Jason Samoa is concerned. Okay, and
Momoa.
huh?
You said Samoa.
Oh, what is it? It's wait
Jason Momoa. Am I
Momoa.
wrong?
No,
Yeah,
Momoa.
no, yeah, okay.
F it. That actor in the first movie, opening scene, him going into the submarine. He's walking slowly through some steam, wind blowing in his hair. I'm already pissed off. Like I'm in the theater watching this, and all the ladies at that moment are like, "Woo!" I was like, "Get
Go,
out of
girl,
here!" You
go.
know.
Yeah.
So get out of here with that nonsense. And I like say his lines in the original Justice League versus his lines in the Snyder Cut. I liked him more in the Snyder Cut. He came off cheesy. I don't know if that was just more so Joss Whedon's doing in the original version. But out of all three movies, I liked him the most in the Snyder Cut of the Justice League. Now, fast forward. Being that in the DC fandom this year, it wasn't a trailer, wasn't a sneak peek. It was more so behind the scenes. And
Yes. Uh-huh.
one thing that he said at the very beginning of this, I was like, he mentioned he's like, say this sequel is tackling a lot of environmental issues. Now, I'm already out. I don't want to hear anything about global warming. I don't want to hear anything about like ice melting and then killing all of the creatures of the sea or whatnot. Miss me. If this is going to be another showdown of Aquaman and Black Manta, great. I'm all for that. But him is just he's like, hey, yeah, I'm really excited because this movie's going to be tackling a whole bunch of environmental issues. Now, I go to the movies to be entertained and not educated, okay? If I wanted to be educated, I'd watch a documentary, you know? I don't want to see anything related to real life because I go to the theater to be taken away from real life. Now, he's talking about bringing real life to this movie. I'm really not interested. So Aquaman, the Lost Kingdom, I'm already out. I'm sorry.
See, I feel like you put so many targets on your hand. You've offended all of the fans to the TV shows for DC. You're like all the
I
environmentalists
will
are
be
like,
that
I am
guy. I got Marvel
done.
behind me. I got Disney behind me. I'm
So
fine.
I don't feel like I'm as. I agree. When I go to see like movies, I obviously go to these to like go into a world that's not my own, de-stress, all of that. But I feel like, I haven't followed Aquaman too closely in the comics, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna assume since he's kind of like the equivalent to Namor in Marvel,
Mm-hmm.
a big thing with Namor's character is essentially just like the way humans have been destroying, polluting the ocean. Like, that's part of like their storyline and part of like their, I wouldn't say core of like their character, but it's something that's important to them. And I'm going to assume maybe Aquaman has similar storylines in the comics as well. Like with Namor, it's really big. Like he hates like the Wakandans because he just hates humans in general because they pollute and all these things. So I'm assuming that it's similar for Aquaman in the comics as well. So for that reason, I'm not bothered because it seems to just be a theme with them being, Atlanteans, the ocean. Like I think that's just relatively true, whether it's in our world or in that world that they live in, right? Pollution, and then that idea was also referenced in the first one, right? Because it like initially when this whole conflict happens, it's because all of the trash and everything that was thrown into the ocean by the humans was thrown back onto the shore. So that's something that was already touched upon in the first one. So for that reason, I'm okay. And I think we're still going to see, the whole, like Black Manta. I mean, he's listed as, the villains. Yeah. We're going to see him going against. I have the names of like some of the other characters. So returning cast, obviously Aquaman. We're going to see Mera, Atlanta, Black Manta, Dr. Stephen Shin. And the new characters, Karshan, which is like a shark humanoid, very similar to King Shark, and then Stingray, who's a completely new character that was made specifically for this film. Gotcha. So I'm assuming the conflict is still going to be within these characters, and it's not going to just be like a huge commercial of like saving the world, So I think you're fine. I don't think you should be worried. I'm still pretty excited for the film.
I'm going to see this movie. Okay, I'm going to be there simply for the fact that I'm like
obligated.
I'm obligated. Yes, I'm obligated. Yes, with the CCU, but just at the end of the day, if DC is going to do, or if they happen by chance to connect anything, I'm going to be there to see it. Now, as far as the actor Jason Momoa goes, now I'm not opposed to his acting. Is he a great actor to me? I'm sorry, no. Okay. In the first movie, even though he was the main character, I got a lot more acting from Nicole Kidman and William Dafoe, and they were just minor roles. So I just, if anything, don't want a repeat to happen in this Aquaman 2.
I think something that they mentioned in the, because this was really more like of a behind the scenes sneak peek versus a trailer, like you said, they made comments about how this film's going to be a lot more mature, but still retain some of its lighthearted like elements that we saw in the first film. So I know that was like a similar critique that a lot of people had, just kind of with very similar to what you're saying. So I feel like this is maybe their way of just trying to like, okay, hearing the criticism from the previous film, which is still like kind of known as one of DC's top films. So like Jason Momoa's acting or not, like I thought it was pretty okay. I liked it. I liked the movie. I think they're still trying to take the criticism and enhance this film because it's leading from the first one.
Don't get me wrong when I say like I did not like this movie. Like I actually like the movie because I am a fan of like I said, I like to be entertained. So for me, all of the whole CG and environments that they had was visually appealing to me, and I, with that along with the story was okay, and the acting, like I've already spoke on the acting, but all in all, this wasn't a bad movie to me. Okay,
right?
I enjoyed it. I like some of the sequences as far as the whole desert sequence and being chased and all that. That was entertaining me. So this wasn't Aquaman. The original was not a bad movie. I'm just hoping that this comes out to be better, and I hope so too. To be educated.
You're like, I don't want to be educated. I don't want to hear this stuff.
Right. Don't litter in the ocean. It's like, okay, I got it. I get that in the news all the time. I get it. If I go to the beach over here, there's a chance I may step on some trash, So I already know firsthand of how dirty the ocean can be, So all in all,
you're like, I'm already educated. I'm done. I don't need to hear more.
Right. So
I'm excited for it because I feel like that comment was addressing maybe some of the criticism they did receive from the previous one, and
yeah.
then building off of the success from that last. So I'm
Okay.
excited for it. And with that, I think that's all the notes I have on that. What about
Okay.
you?
That's everything. I'm going to move forward into something that I'm sure you're going to want to talk about, and that
Okay.
is, hold on, let me find it real fast. Boom, the Peacemaker. Okay. I have the poster. It is official. They gave us a trailer, and Grace, why don't you go ahead and give us your thoughts on the trailer first?
Um, I'm excited for the Peacemaker show just in general because I really liked his character in Suicide Squad 2. The trailer seems like entertaining. We're introduced to not just Peacemaker, but a lot of other characters that
Mm-hmm.
seem to make up like his team in this because it seems that it's kind of um, starting off from where we left off in
Yeah.
Suicide Squad
Mm-hmm.
2. It seems like he's still working under like the Suicide Squad, essentially, like, with commands from Amanda Waller. And that seems to be like the premise of the
Yeah.
show. So I'm excited to see it because I'm expecting it to be a very similar vibe to what we saw in Suicide Squad 2, which I loved.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have like conflicting opinions on that, but overall, I'm really excited for the show. That's something I'm definitely going to be looking for.
And
Yeah.
James Gunn, he's back at it. He's directing this again. Yes.
Is he?
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
sure.
he
Is
he
he?
is like he was
Oh, okay.
kind of leading the segment on Fandom as far as him actually being the director of the show. So James Gunn is back. Um, and one thing that I'm curious, maybe you can help me out with is in this uh, in this trailer, there's a fight sequence between him and some woman, and it looks like it gets to the point to where they make it out to the street, and she's about to jump on top of him, and his helmet gives him some type of protective force field around his body. Now, we didn't get that in the movie, so I was wondering if you can kind of tell us a little bit about that.
I have no reference for that.
Oh,
I am not
okay.
sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. You're like, oh, no. Wow. What a letdown.
Yeah, like say, yeah, it
Sorry,
looked like this
guys.
force field. It was generated by the helmet, so it's not just a weird looking metal thing on top of his head. It has some type of protective
Properties.
powers to help him out in a jam. So we didn't get that in Suicide Squad, but we're getting that here. The only downside to this trailer that I'm going to say, and it may just be, I don't know, just from first glance, but this, as far as cinematography goes, I'm going to be back to it. It almost gave me TV show vibes. It didn't look like the same vibes of the Suicide Squad movie. It is an HBO Max original, and I know some of those shows can look to be shot as if it were a movie, and some of them don't. But just looking at this trailer, it looks like it looks like it doesn't have the same effect or color scheme or filter as the Suicide Squad movie.
So it definitely doesn't have the same like overall color palette, and I think that's just because Suicide Squad 2, I think the color palette is meant to match the vibe of the overall movie, which is more than just one character. In this case, it's Peacemaker's
Mm-hmm.
show,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I feel like that kind of makes sense as to why the color palette is a little different, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think the same goes for when you see Suicide Squad 2 versus Birds of Prey. Like the color palette is very different. I think it's meant to reflect the character that it's mainly about. But I still feel like it retains somewhat of a movie quality. It's definitely not to the quality that we see
Right.
on like the the other DC shows that we've had previously, like The
Yeah.
Flash and Green Arrow, all of that. So I feel like it still has much more of a movie quality,
Mm-hmm.
closer to how like the Marvel shows have been reflecting. I think the color palette is just different because it's reflecting the story of this particular character, not the group of Suicide Squad.
Okay, and I feel like that was the only down part of this trailer that I saw. I'm going to see it just simply for the fact that initially with the Suicide Squad trailer, I wasn't sold on John Cena. I wasn't sold until I actually watched him in the movie, and he was hilarious. So I can assume that
Yeah.
this is going to be another just showing of him being funny, you know. And I saw him recently. I forgot in another movie that came out on Hulu, but he's starting to get his flow going
Street
with
cred.
yeah
Yeah.
with comedy in particular. So I'm not mad in the direction that he's going, even though he was a bit silly in the WWE. We already known him to be a silly actor, a silly character in that, and now it's kind of like initially it wasn't translating before, but now it is starting to get more and more funny. And this, I hate to do this comparison again, but this is initially what I got from The Rock, you know. And I love The Rock when he was wrestling. Yes, he was cheesy, but I loved him. But initially acting, I wasn't really a fan, and he grew on me. And right now, John Cena is growing on me to the point to where I will watch this show just because he's the lead and he's starting to be funny, and I feel like it may be a funny show.
No, absolutely. And I think we may have talked a little bit about it when we were going over Suicide Squad 2. I have very similar kind of feelings with John Cena. Like if I saw John Cena was going to be in the movie, I'm like, oh, it's not going to be good, just because his acting was never something that I was like excited about. But I think it comes with obviously like building experience and
Mm-hmm.
getting more, projects under his belt. And
Yeah.
I really, really love him in Suicide Squad 2, and it seems like we're gonna get a very similar vibe in this show. We get a scene where he's in his like whitey tighties and like doing a dance. So very like a callback to what we see in Suicide Squad
Yeah.
2, where he's just like randomly in his underwear and they're like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for the show. I think that's one of the projects I'm most excited from that we got out of Fandome.
Okay. Well, what I want you to kind of dive into before we get into any more movies, there may be a part that I may have skipped over or I may have just missed, but I'm going to bring up a couple images here. It is
Sure.
images of the Sirens comic. So can you kind of tell me
This is
what
okay,
this
this
is
is just
about?
my plug. So obviously we got the Batman trailer in Fandom, which is really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Zoe Kravitz is perfect for the role of Catwoman. I don't think she's going to be the one to play Gotham City Sirens, which is a film that's been confirmed. Right now, the only actor who's tied to it is Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, right, reprising her
Mm-hmm.
role. But I'm just throwing it into the world that I would love for her to share the screen with Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, just because I really love Zoe Kravitz. She's perfect for Catwoman, and I like don't want to see anyone else take the role. I know that there's I can't remember the actress that seems to be lined up, and there's like some soft confirmations that she might be the one to take on the Catwoman role in Birds of Prey. But this was just me like throwing it into the universe of like
All
I
right.
want this to happen,
Let me
although I
let
do
me
not
let
think
me
it's going
stop you right
to.
there, okay? Just because I was waiting to do what a DC did and talk about the Batman maybe towards the end, but I thought that these images that you
Yeah.
sent of Gotham City Sirens was maybe like there was a show or something coming out with it. Because I know before you talked about there was a movie that was going to be coming out, but you sent these to me more specifically to talk about Zoe Kravitz. Yes?
You need to like read my texts when I send you these references, man, because I feel like I frame it pretty well. I'm like, this is what the topic is.
Ay, ay,
I don't mind just
ay.
bringing it up right now and then jumping back to it later on. But
Okay.
literally, I just sent those particular ones because I'm like, I just want her. But we'll get to that once we get into the Batman, because
Well,
I feel like that's a big one to talk about towards the end if you want.
let's continue to talk about this real quick, just
Mm.
because, um, as far as the Gotham City Sirens, and you're saying Margot is already signed up to be Harley Quinn.
Yeah, so that's the only person that's been attached to the film thus far, the only person that's been confirmed. The plot line just seems to follow the Gotham City Sirens
Mm-hmm.
comic books. I sent two different covers.
Yeah.
I have both, like the book one and book two.
Yeah.
And so it follows Poison Ivy, Catwoman, and Harley Quinn as they like basically like roam through Gotham City. Really great comic series. Excited that they're making this a film. After seeing Birds of Prey, I was really hoping that this would be the next big project for Harley Quinn, and it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's meant to serve as and obviously this wasn't talked about in a fandom, so this is just kind of extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's meant to serve a little bit of a Harley Quinn origin story. Birds of Prey wasn't necessarily an origin story for Harley Quinn, although she did kind of touch upon it at the beginning. So I'm really, really excited to see what they do with it. The Batman, right? I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
get too much into it because obviously we'll visit that in a bit. Um, it's not connected to the DC universe that
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing, right? It's not connected the way Aquaman is, all the others. So I don't think that Zoe Kravitz will come back for this
I'm
film, but I
sorry.
just want to put
She's
it out there.
not.
I
She's
know it's
not.
not. I'm like, I'm so, I know it's not. I know it's not going to happen.
Yep.
I just wanted to bring that energy into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope it does. But that is all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get right into the Batman. Okay. Hold on. Let me bring up that poster here because say when they released a teaser, I believe it was either early this year or late last year. But
I think it was in Fandom of last year, if
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
mistaken. Yeah.
and I was sold even then like yes it looks completely different from the Batman that we know, but all in all, I this a lot of people associate this actor with Twilight, which Robert Pattinson, he's actually like he's another one of those to where that's grown on me. And I can't hate on him on Twilight just because I hated the girl more. So anything that I see the girl in, I relate her to Twilight. I don't really relate him to Twilight. But he's in the recent years he's been um, putting out more projects to where like there was a movie called the Devil All the Time, and that was with Tom
Hmm.
Holland, and he was also in Tenet, and he did a really good job in those. So, am I mad at Warner Brothers for choosing him to play the new up and coming Batman? No, I'm not. I'm curious to see the direction that they go here, and with it, as far as the style of it, I can't tell, or I couldn't tell initially if this is going to be like a modernized Batman, or this looks a little bit more gothic. It looks a little bit more like it may be uh in the past. I don't know. It just looks different
Yeah.
in comparison to the other Batman that we've got. Like the Batmobile that we see is not a tank. It's not like the Batmobile in the '89 version. It just looks like a badass car that he souped up, and I'm sure is gonna do some damage. We saw at the end of the trailer him chasing Penguin, and the Penguin thinks he's got him, but he just bursts out of the flames with the Batmobile and then just steps out and walks in slow motion, and that's how the trailer ends, you know? So I am
Yeah.
excited to see what this trailer, or no, what this movie has in store.
100%. I am super excited for this version of Batman. I'm trying to quote Matt Reeves, so the director for this film. His first pick for Batman was Edward Cullen. What's his name?
Robert
Rob
Pattinson.
Pattinson. Yeah. So that was his very first pick. So the vision for this particular film is trying to show Batman in his second year of taking on the mantle.
Okay.
So this is a version of Batman where he's still trying to figure out really what Batman is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Really making that distinction between where Bruce Wayne starts and ends, and then where Batman begins.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the take that they're going with this, and I had there's a couple of comics that they actually take like direct references for
Mm-hmm.
or the inspiration for. So Batman Ego, which came out in 2000, and then Batman The Long Halloween, which ran from 1996 to 97. It's a 13 issue limited series.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the comics that they're kind of drawing influence from. So that's where you get like that very dark gothic, which I think is very traditional for most of like the Batman comics that you see.
Right.
It's very gothic, very
But
dark,
it's
and I
never
think
been
that
like translated in the films. Like, say, yeah, I agree.
yes.
We see that in the comics, but like in the films, we get more so a modern version of Batman. So this is new, and
Mhm.
I'm curious to see what this gothic look is going to be.
It's exciting, and I think I believe they mentioned it in fandom where a lot of films or even just in the comics they've been kind of going bigger, brighter, all these different characters, and with this one they're kind of going a little bit more. I don't know what the word that they use, but they're kind of going deeper into the character versus trying to make it explosive and showy,
Mm-hmm.
where it's still going to have that. I mean, the
Right.
trailer showed plenty of it, so
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely not going to be missing.
Yeah.
But I feel like when films do this, it comes out so well because it's very filled with like in-depth story that I can't get enough of. So I'm really excited for this film.
Yeah.
There was a couple of notes that I had in addition to that. It's also supposed to be much more display of Batman's detective skills, which we haven't really seen. I mean, DC stands for Detective Comics
Right.
after all,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for that because I think it's a piece that's very important to Batman as a character. And it's not something that I think we've been really showing in the movies, just because I feel like it's been much more like focused on other aspects of Batman and his storyline. So that's really exciting, and I'm happy to see it in this film.
Just to kind of add on to that, one thing that I remember when watching the animated series years ago, I always remembered Ra's al Ghul always called him Detective. He never called him Bruce Wayne. He never called him Batman. He always called him Detective. And then I knew there was a comic book series that called, I think it was called, wasn't it like Batman the Detective or something like that? Something in that aspect. But like when it comes down to the movies, yes, I agree. We've never got a detective aspect of it. We've only gotten, like, say, uh, Alfred has usually kind of been the main detective, honestly, in the last few variations of Batman, from the Justice League uh, to I would even say the Dark Knight, and Dark Knight was more so uh, Alfred and Lucius Fox, and like I've never really seen Batman like quote unquote do detective work. He's just always been there to fight crime. He's never there
Yeah.
solving mysteries, So I'm curious to see if this movie goes in that route because again, he's going against the Riddler. So
Mm-hmm.
in this, the Riddler of course is gonna leave in a whole bunch of riddles and hints and stuff like that, and he's going to have to be a detective to find out how or what's going on, because I think we see in this trailer, we don't know where this is in the movie, but we see the Riddler's getting arrested, and then we see Batman behind the window talking to the Riddler, asking him what did he do. So it's already safe to assume that the Riddler is behind bars, but he's left certain things for Batman to kind of catch on to. So uh,
Yeah, that seems to be the layout of it.
yeah,
It's definitely going to be much more of a grounded story for Batman, and I think in other films that detective aspect has been kind of overshadowed by much flashier components of his like comics, because I think that's what a lot of people, like to see.
yeah,
But we're a mature audience here,
mm-hmm,
so I'm excited. I'm excited for this edition. I think it's gonna be really good. And then, because you mentioned the Riddler, this version of the Riddler is supposed to be influenced a lot actually by the Zodiac killer.
oh snap,
Um, I think in the trailer you do see some of like the kind of like coded, encrypted like messages left behind by the Riddler that Batman and who's the Commissioner
yeah,
Gordon are kind of like looking at and trying to figure out what's going on. So that's really cool. I think it matches with the theme that they're going with in this film.
okay, I
We're also supposed to be seeing a much greater look at not just Catwoman, but Selena Kyle, like as a character. And that's something I don't think we've really explored too much of as well.
Before
So I'm
we
excited.
before we get into Selena Kyle, because I do have something I do want to talk about with her. First off, I do want to shout out to Jesse Pinkman. He's back, and he mentioned that he said the trailers didn't show Riddler. Now, in the DC fandom, they showed a glimpse of a person being arrested that's putting a question mark into his coffee. Now that is a safe reference to say that he is the Riddler. Now, DC fandom aside, the teaser that we got last year, we already had an idea that the Riddler was going to be in this movie just because we saw somebody wearing a mask, and in that I think he was mentioned to be the Riddler or whatnot. So all in all, we have a general idea that he, alongside the Penguin, are the villains of this movie.
Yes. So in the trailer, you're totally right. We don't actually see him. We only really get like soft glimpses from like a side profile, really. We don't see his full-on face, but it's confirmed on IMDb as well. It is the Riddler. This is Edward Nashton's version of the Riddler, and the actor playing him is Paul
Mm-hmm.
Dano, something like that. So this is the Riddler, and we're going to be seeing the Penguin in. I think it's supposed to be before he really becomes the Penguin. You know what I mean? Like we see a couple of like scars on his face. I think it's supposed to be like earlier in his like character development than what we know him to be like in the previous Batman films that we've seen. So I think it's going to be like an earlier version. And this is Batman in year 2 of his career, really. So I think it makes sense that these characters are a little earlier on in their development as well, which is kind of cool. So I'm excited. It's very different. Very different.
Definitely. Okay, so like you were talking about with um, Selena Kyle, I'm just going to take off the Batman poster and put up a picture of Zoe Kravitz. Now, in this trailer, I want to, I do want to compare this to uh, Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns. Okay, because she played Catwoman in Batman Returns. Now, we know throughout the history of Batman that Catwoman is one of his love interests. Now,
Mm-hmm.
um, the Selena Kyle that we got in Batman Returns, she was decent, but I feel like uh, their story wasn't. At oh my goodness. Jesse Pinkman said, "Wait, Holly Berry isn't Catwoman? No, she's not." That's hilarious. That we're not gonna put
Well,
Holly
Halle
Berry into
Berry
this
is like
category.
a
No.
yeah, that's a completely different movie.
But when it comes down to Michelle Pfeiffer's version of Catwoman, I like there was a connection, but it didn't seem like a strong love interest. Now, in this trailer, I feel like I've got more love shown between Selena Kyle and Batman in the 2 minutes that I got in the Batman Returns. So with that, she's also putting in some pretty crazy stunts. Like we get a scene of her like
Mhm.
jumping off a roof, and I'm willing or not willing, but I'm hoping to see her do some crazy stuff with her whip. You know, because if she's jumping off a roof, if it's any relation to like what she's done in the comics or the animated series, then she could lasso on with her whip and swing and do some crazy stuff. So I think this is the first time we're going to see something like that with this Catwoman, because we didn't get any whip action from the Dark Knight series, the Dark Knight Rises. We just got
Mhm.
more so that Catwoman being more so like a cat burglar, but
Yeah.
this one is going to be not only a cat burglar, but a little bit more agile, a little bit more exciting, and showing Batman a little bit more love. So I'm excited to see Zoe Kravitz play Catwoman here.
Absolutely. I'm super like I think I'm excited for Batman just as it is, but I'm excited just to see Zoe Kravitz. I love her. I think the casting was so well done. I know she had like casted for or had a um tried to audition for I think Catwoman earlier in her career, but she didn't get it, and now she's finally getting into the role.
Mm-hmm.
And we're definitely going to be exploring a Catwoman that we really haven't seen, at least in the previous movies that we've seen her in.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that it's Zoe Kravitz and Rob like paired in this movie is really well like placed because they're friends like in real life, and I think it was the director who made comments that that's kind of why their chemistry on screen is so well done.
Mm-hmm.
So this film is I think it's like Peacemaker. I'm super excited just as a show, but this is probably the movie that I'm most excited about when it comes to DC right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just expect really great things, so hopefully it does not drop our expectations.
Well, Jesse Pinkman, he brings up a point to where I'm curious to see your thoughts. He says in the trailer, I think the love interest from Catwoman is more focused to Batman and not Bruce Wayne. What do you think about that?
Um, that is what we see in the trailer because I don't think we see her interact with Bruce Wayne.
Correct.
In the comics, she knows who Batman's like real identity is. I think the majority of like the interactions I've seen in the comics are with like Catwoman and her like not as Selena Kyle but as Catwoman
Right.
and Bruce Wayne in his like Batman
Mm-hmm.
like outfit, and I think that's like how they've shown in the comic cover that I sent you. So that's like how I've seen them interact in the majority of the comics that I've read. But then again, I haven't read too many where they're both in. But she's aware of who Batman is, and there are some comics where you see them interacting just as Selena Kyle and Bruce
Well,
Wayne.
let me bring up
So
say one thing that Warner Brother does well that I actually really enjoy. It's the animated movies that they come out with every it's almost every other year, and they've been doing it for the past, let's say, 5 to 10 years, coming out with a new animated film, and in these movies, the Bruce Wayne, Selena Kyle, relationship is there. It's not just a Batman Catwoman, and
mhm.
it's to the point to where I believe we mentioned it a few shows ago, to where there is now a quote unquote controversial scene of like a love scene between Catwoman and Batman. So there are some aspects maybe not shown in cinema, but all in all, it's to the point to where I've seen it where Catwoman does know Bruce's true identity, and they're in love as uh, not just vigilantes and like burglars, but just as people. So
And both of their counterparts.
right.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I'm curious just to see if this not only takes place in this film, or if it, or just it does just in general does take place in this film, just because in Dark Knight Rises we didn't get any love until the very end, and she like kisses him, and that was just like
Yeah. There
the
wasn't
end
like a
of it,
lot of build up. Yeah,
right,
in terms of like
so
the intimacy, the understand like their relationship
right.
and their what's the word I'm looking for? I just said it earlier. Their chemistry. Like you don't really see a lot of the chemistry building up to that moment until it just kind of like, they kiss and then like obviously like they live happily ever after, it seems like in the end of that movie. I think in this one we're gonna see a lot more of the depth of the relationship. So I'm excited to see that as well.
Real quick, I'm sorry I have to pause just because I know the viewers that are watching, I'm having some issues with my chat box, but I think I figured it out. And Jesse Pinkman, he mentioned that the romantic story of Catwoman and Batman was actually, it was so good explored in the Batman Arkham games, and especially Arkham Knight. And I can attest to that just because I've played the Arkham Knight, and they do show the love interest in that. So really, what we're hoping for, I'm assuming, I'm just gonna speak for Grace here, that we want to see that. We want to see that love connection in this movie. We don't just want to see him randomly go up against Catwoman initially, because that's what it was in Batman Returns. It was Batman
Yeah.
v I don't want to say v fucking Batman versus Superman, but Batman versus Catwoman. Um, and then they didn't reveal themselves to the very end of the movie. And same with the Dark Knight. In the Dark Knight, we got like hints of them kind of flirting with each other, and then she knew who he was, and vice versa, and he tracked her down, but it was no really love here. And then it came down to them showing the love at the very end of the movie, like we just mentioned. But here, I'm hoping to see a little bit more. I'm hoping to at least get a general idea of her knowing who he is, or vice versa, and them showing each other love a little bit earlier in the movie as opposed to the end.
Like a build up where it
Right,
makes sense, where
right.
it's not just kind of like, that they're together in the comics. So you're like, okay, I see where this is going. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can actually see the chemistry, like the level of like vulnerability for them to know each other's like secret
Yeah.
identities, like all of that. So, and based on the little bit of the trailer that we saw, I feel like it's going to explore that. So,
Okay. here I'm gonna bring the I'm gonna because I have the image of Batman and Catwoman um, on the screen, but we kind of went on a love tangent, and I'm just going to take that down and bring the poster of Batman back up. So when it comes down to the Batman, okay, Robert Pattinson, we see some fighting scenes here, and most importantly, one thing that we saw, I think, twice in this trailer, we actually got to see these bullets bounce off of Batman and him just taking it and eating it like it's nothing. Like usually we've seen like I've seen Michael Keaton take a bullet and he like fake falls down, and I think uh even with Ben Affleck, he was
Hmm.
phased by a few gunshots, but here we see Robert Pattinson like unfazed. Like he's just
Yeah.
continuing to move forward. And at this point, I'm just like, yo, aim for the chin. Like you see that these bullets are bouncing off of his body. Try to aim for some skin, y'all. Like, but no, I like it. I like that they're making this Batman just to be almost unstoppable when it comes down to I don't want to say these villains, just these regular people shooting guns.
Right, right.
Yeah,
With their like stormtrooper type shooting over there.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I feel like the way that they were, even the teaser trailer, I think was really well. I think it's the teaser trailer that I saw on like the big screen. I forget what movie I was watching. It might have been Shang-Chi.
mm-hmm,
But it was like to see it on the big screen, like that, just that little sneak peek was so like I
yep.
was like excited. Like I think it ends with like that piece where you just hear like him like pounding into these bad guys, and it just sounds like so epic. And so I'm pumped for this film. I think everyone's excited for it. It's Batman. It's
It's
Batman.
Batman.
Come on.
We do get Alfred, and Alfred again is Andy Serkis. We just had a whole show about Andy Serkis 2 weeks ago, and now he's
Yeah.
back. I'm telling you, he's killing it. You know, so
Everywhere.
so he's in it, and Colin Farrell in a fat suit. I didn't know what to expect initially, but when I saw him last year, I was like, the makeup artist did an awesome job. You know, you can't even really tell it's Colin Farrell at first because he's a fit guy. Like he's
Yeah.
super lean. He's been in quite a bit to where he's always like the action star. To where now he is in a fat suit, and I saw an image. I'm mad I didn't actually bring it up here, but it was an image of this penguin set next to what the penguin looked like in one of the comic book series, and it was almost spot
Mhm.
on, you know. And I don't want to. I'm not trying to hate on Danny DeVito's penguin, but his nose was a little much for me. It was. It looked a little cartoony, which was cool. Tim Burton did his thing. I love Tim Burton and that Batman movie. But
Mhm.
here it looks like we get someone a little bit more realistic. It's just a chubby, bald, fat guy, and he is playing Penguin. So
Yeah.
I'm just
It
hoping to see.
matches with the tone of this particular film. Whereas like the Danny DeVito one obviously matches with like Tim Burton's vision for that Batman film. But this one, I think the realisticness of it definitely matches more of what this film seems to be trying to push for.
Okay. All right. I have one other question from Jesse. Now, Jesse, this is
We love you.
we
All
love
this
you. We
interaction.
yeah we
I'm so
love all
excited.
these questions just because say when it comes down to it, you interact with us when it comes down to these topics of comic book movies. Now, the question that you've asked us is he's like, guys, question for the both of you. It's not related to topic. Sorry. Just want to hear your opinion. Who would you like to see next as James Bond? Curious. Now, when it comes down to James Bond, I would love to talk about this. I may talk about this on another show, but I'm sorry, this isn't that. Okay. And listen, it's all love. I'm not trying to hate. I'm not trying to hate on your question. And give me more questions, but preferably related to the topic at hand. I did see James Bond, and hey, I may actually make it a topic for next Friday. I may do a podcast next Friday, so tune in and ask me all the questions that you want about that, and I'll chat about it. Because I do have plenty to talk about that movie. But as far as right now, as far as what we're gonna end on talking about the Batman, and I think as far as DC fandom goes, I think I think the last thing that I meant to bring up earlier, actually no, we skipped over an entire movie. And yeah,
Shazam.
Shazam. We totally forgot to talk about. And really, the only thing that I wanted to talk about Shazam was the fact that Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu are the villains. Now, with that, I'm
This
already
is the only
like,
thing I wanted to talk about
right,
also with that
right.
film. Lucy Liu.
Yeah, I'm already sold because I'm not familiar. I'm not too familiar with the Shazam history in the comic books, but you mentioned that he is related to Greek gods.
So Shazam gets his powers from Greek gods. I actually have him written down because it's relevant to Lucy Liu's character Calypso. But he gets his powers from Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. And I believe each one of them gives them like, strength, the speed, all of like the lightning, all of
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah, so that's where he draws his powers from, just like Black Adam.
Okay, so what we got to see from the behind the scenes is, like, say the title is called Shazam: Fury of the Gods, but with that being said, I've only known DC to really tackle DC villains and superheroes. I've never really seen them go into Greek mythology. They briefly did go into I think Norse mythology because Thor has been in a few DC comics, I believe, with the Justice League, fighting alongside the Justice League. But aside from that, I don't know too much about the Greek mythology relationship. So in this movie, yeah, kind of dive in. Tell me your thoughts.
I was gonna say they actually do use a lot of Greek mythology for many characters' origin stories. Wonder Woman is one of them,
Mm.
right? So she's,
Amazon, that's right.
I guess, she would be categorized as a demigod, right? The Amazonians, and then
Correct.
all of that, and then a big villain for her storylines is
I totally forgot. I can't believe I drew a
hold on,
blank
Ares. No,
for
Ares.
that. Yeah, it was
Ares.
Ares. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. The god of war. So they do draw on a lot of Greek mythology for several different heroes and villains. They do the same thing for Shazam and Black Adam. Like that's a lot of their origin stories, really, because that's where they draw their power from initially. That's where the wizard kind of like, I guess, pulls their power
Yeah.
from. And then Shazam's siblings each carry an individual power, whereas he carries all of them. And so the way we see Lucy Liu's character and how do you say it? Helena
It's
Moren? Is that,
Helen
am I
Mirren.
correct? Yeah, Helen Mirren.
Mm-hmm.
Their characters, so they're the Fury. So they're daughters of Atlas and they're sisters. And so I'm guessing that's kind of where they draw also the title from, right? Fury of the Gods.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of considered, I think they're like part of the Furies.
Okay.
So Lucy Liu's character is Calypso, and then Helen's character is Hespera. So a lot of ties from Greek mythology.
Okay. Well, they didn't really dive too much into just the background because it was more so another behind the scenes moment of Shazam.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked the first movie. The actor did a really good job playing Shazam, and I'm curious to see where that goes. It looks like the suits are a little bit different.
Yes.
It looks like he's going to be, because they have a whole bunch of like mystical creatures. Like I think he's going to be like fighting a dragon. Like they have him behind the scenes
There's like a
holding on to like a
dragon.
tail or something like that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's. I'm trying to think of this one. It's like a mix. This particular character, I think it's gonna pop up. It's like a mixture of a lion, a dragon, and
Mm-hmm.
like some. Is it a? I'll come up with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's supposed to be a lot of different like, and I think they're creatures from like Greek mythology.
Yeah.
So it's all very like cohesive, like the storyline and how they draw different ties from these things. So it's really cool.
I love how you
Really
said the
exciting.
word cohesive, because that's where I want to end. I want to end on the word cohesive. And by that, I mean they all have to come together. Superman, Justice League, Shazam, everything. When it comes down to the first Shazam, it ended with a quote unquote cameo with Superman hanging out with Shazam in the lunchroom in the
Yeah.
cafeteria or whatnot. But of course, we didn't see Henry Cavill's face at all. But we know that he knows Superman. Now, as far as everything that we got in DC Fandom, we got Shazam, we got Black Adam, and we got Aquaman. Now, all separate stories, I know, but at the end of the day, me being me wanting continuity, me wanting some type of cohesion, I want them all to come together like they
That is why
have.
this fandom was so
Right,
important for you, because
right,
they're finally
exactly,
doing that. Yeah.
exactly. And I can't say finally, because at the end of the day, these can be one-offs just like the Suicide Squad, you know. So I'm just hoping that they do something to where they all do come together, to where we do see Black Adam go against Superman, because if anything, like I mentioned before, those two were almost evenly matched. Like all three of them, Shazam, Superman, and Black Adam, they're almost at the same level, I would assume. So to see Black Adam go against Doctor Fate, I'm curious to see where that's going to go. But I would love to see him go against these other super strong, flying super fast superheroes, you know? So
Right.
that's what I'm kind of hoping to see in the future. And I'm hoping that with what they've shown us in DC Fandom, this is what they actually are leaning towards.
I think that's definitely the route that they're trying to take. I feel like the DC fandom, apart from just a couple of like, one-offs like the Batman and other things, I mean, all of these are meant to be within the same universe, and it does seem like they're trying to build up to something very similar to what Marvel has done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with the I don't want to say the failure of Justice League the way it was initially introduced to
Mm-hmm.
us, but with the mistakes they've made from the Justice League, I hope that whatever buildup is coming up next, that they learn from those mistakes and just like give us an amazing like film. So I'm hoping that your dream comes true, because I live
Listen.
off of that too. So I'm throwing in the same energy.
Yes, let it be.
Yeah.
So before we take off, I do want to shout out to Jesse Pinkman. Thank you again for tuning in and chiming in. We will be
You're
back
the man today.
in 2 weeks, 2 Fridays from now, and you will see this whole setup will be gone. It's gonna be a brand new setup. So I'm super excited to actually set it up, because I kind of have a general idea of what it's gonna look like. So I'm hoping my dream will come into fruition. And I like to shout out, I got a new follower, or we got a new follower. It is Brian Serrano. So shout out to Brian, and yeah, I think that's all that I got. Do you have anything else?
No, that is all. This is awesome. I'm super excited for what DC is bringing out. I feel like DC and Marvel are like fighting. Marvel pushed back a lot of dates for many of their projects,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people are saying it's in response to what DC Fandom came out with. I'm all here for the battle, because it just gives us better movies. They keep giving us more and great things. It's a great time to be alive. I mean, not for other things, but for this, yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is everything. Oh, he said one last thing. He said, yeah, community is getting stronger. Great podcast from you guys. As always, love. You know what? Same to you, my man. And that has been, hey, this has been episode 9, So it's kind of
Episode
crazy. Look at
9.
that, So this has been episode 9 of the Comic Cinematic Universe. Again, this is Chill from VA, and this is at is it the Mighty Grace, or is it Mighty Grace Fit?
Why am I now questioning it? It's Mighty Grace Fit.
Because
Mighty Grace underscore
I've done
fit.
some changes to the format, so I don't have our socials up here. But hey, new social is coming soon. I am going to do the Comic Cinematic Universe Instagram. I just have to actually look up a few things, as far as like there have actually been some emails out there that have like similar things, like similar wordings. So I'm trying to peruse and see how I can adjust it just so we can get this Instagram thing popping off. So
The fam is growing, so we're like becoming more official every time.
yeah.
Hopefully you're getting a new setup.
Yep.
Hopefully I'll be getting a new setup by the end of the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, let's do
So
that.
yes, yes,
All right,
fam.
so we will check y'all on the next one. Again, tune in 2 weeks. It's going to be 2 Fridays from now, same time at 3:30 Pacific time, and we will catch y'all later. So you all have a great weekend, and
Goodbye, everybody.
later.
Later.